Yes, it's that time again on a Football Friday as we get you set for week 3 here of the NFL season. Johnny Montalbano along with Hank and Victor. Just feels like we did this a couple of days ago, right, Hank? But we're back at it again. It's already week 3 in the NFL and the fastest moving league. It got started on Thursday night as the Browns beat the Steelers 29-17. So we're going to try and I was going to say we're going to try and build off of last week, but I don't know if we want to technically build off last week because last week for both of us
I
was
think improve is the word you're looking for.
yes, improve. I mean, I don't want to say it can get any lower. I mean, it obviously could get lower, but we come off a week last week where both of us struggled a bit. Hank went 6-10 last week, and I went 5-11. And so for the season, Hank's sitting at 17-15, and I'm at 13-19 as we get you set here for week number 3 in the NFL. And Hank, we got a lot of good games yet again. You know, last week when we did these picks, there were a lot of high spreads. This week, not so much. But we get it going here for a week number 3 in the NFL. And we start down south, or in my instance, you start up north of where I am. You go to Charlotte, North Carolina. It's an NFC South battle between the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers. And it's Dan Hellie, Matt Millen, and Lindsey Sarniak on the NFL on Fox. And Hank, the Saints with Jameis Winston favored by 2.5 against Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers.
I will definitely be taking that. I think the Saints are the better team. I think Jameis Winston should have a bounce back against the Carolina Panthers team that is very much reeling. I mean, they lost 2 very close games, and they're still riding a pretty big losing streak that's been dating back to either last October or November. So give me New Orleans.
Yeah. Do I trust a banged up Jameis Winston over Baker Mayfield? That's really the question when you look at it. I do, but what I mean by that is I think I trust New Orleans' running attack more, and I trust their defense. You know, their linebackers Pete Warner and Demario Davis are playing as well as anybody right now, and I look for that New Orleans pass rush, which has not really been there, to actually make a statement here, and they finally come alive. You look at Baker Mayfield, he's already been sacked 6 times through 2 games. I think his struggles are only going to continue here. I'm going to take the Saints as well to win and cover, let's say 24-17 against the Panthers. And Matt Rule, the rumblings over in Carolina about Matt Rule, they're only going to continue to heat up. So both of us are going to take the Saints to win and cover in game number 1 on Sunday. Game number 2, we go to Chicago. It's the Lovie Smith revenge game between the Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears. Andrew Catalon, James Lofton, and Michael Grady are on the NFL on CBS. And it's the Chicago Bears favored by 3 at home in this one.
I am going to go against the grain and take the Houston Texans. And the reason I'm doing this is because I thought Houston showed a bit of heart in their first 2 games so far. Chicago, on the other hand, I still don't know how they won that game against the 49ers. I mean, I think definitely the weather had to factor it in, but looking at that game against the Green Bay Packers, we pretty much saw why so many people are so down on them. And it's because that offense is absolutely putrid. I mean, look, let's be honest with ourselves. Justin Fields is pretty much set up to fail. If Darnell Mooney is his best receiver, come on, give me the Texans.
Yeah, you and I are sharing a brain on this one, Hank. I think the matchup you look at in this one, the Bears' rushing defense is last in the NFL. They're allowing almost 190 yards per game on the ground. I think this is a great spot for Houston, who wants to run the ball with Dameon Pierce, their rookie running back. And so that helps Davis Mills out a bit. And I think that should be enough to get the Texans on the board. You know, like you said, first 2 games the Texans have played, they've been in both of them. Obviously, the big lead against the Colts, which they were not able to hold on and force the tie. And they actually didn't play that bad against the Broncos. But I think this is a good spot for them to get their first win. So give me the Texans +3, and I think they get their first win of the year in Chicago. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson special on the NFL on CBS. The Kansas City Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites taking on the Indianapolis Colts.
I will again take that. The Colts I mean, look, I thought they'd be a lot better. My assessment in that has so far looking like it's being proven wrong. And I think, like you said earlier, Frank Reich is definitely a coach that I would say is on the hot seat. And whether it's his fault or not, I don't know if it's entirely fair, but the fact of the matter is the Colts for a while have been a poorly constructive team. I mean, look, you're on your like fourth or fifth different quarterback already. As far as the Chiefs go, they're rolling. Give me Kansas City.
One of the big surprises for the Chiefs, I don't think their offense has been a surprise, but actually defensively, they have not been bad so far in the first two games. And that was a big concern of mine going into this season, but their defense has been great. And yeah, this is such a bad matchup for Kansas City. You look at this also. Colts defensive coordinator Gus Bradley last year with the Vegas Raiders allowed 89 points and 7 touchdown passes to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't think it stops here. And I can't see how the Colts even keep this one close unless they could force a turnover at some point. But yeah, I mean, they hit a new low against the Jaguars last week. I think their struggles only continue. And yes, Frank Reich will be another coach that hot seat will be continuing to heat up. I love the Chiefs in this spot. So give me KC minus 5.5 to win and cover in game number 3. Well, this is one of the games of the week, in my opinion, here in week number 3, Hank. It's an AFC East showdown. The Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins, both at 2-0. Game is down in Miami. This one should be a thrilling one. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins special on the NFL on CBS, and the Bills 5-point favorites.
Hey, first of all, let me just say I'm glad you got a good set of announcers for this game. I personally, in my opinion, I would say Kevin Harlan's one of the best in the business. Dude's awesome, but
Yep,
sorry, I'm going a little bit on a tangent.
that's okay.
This is one of the games that I thought probably you could make the case should have been a later time slot or more of a primetime game. Even though the Bills are absolutely lethal, I'm going to be bold and take the Dolphins, simply put, because that spread scares me just a little bit. I think the Dolphins are going to give the Bills a little bit of a run for their money. Plus, they're the home team. I think I'm going to see them covering, but doesn't mean I'm 100% sure the Dolphins are going to win. No, by no means is that the case.
Does this kind of feel a little bit like when the Patriots were at their heyday and they would travel down to Miami and the Dolphins would be able to pull off the upset? And
Well, the
Hank,
difference is I think this Dolphins squad is better than most of those Dolphins teams that beat New England.
yeah, and I'm going to give you a couple of things here to watch. If there was ever an opportunity for the Dolphins to win, this is it. It's a short week for the Bills. It's warm weather, which the Bills are not used to being in. The Bills have a lot of defensive injuries. Micah Hyde is out. Jordan Phillips is out. Ed Oliver out. The Dolphins' offensive line is improving, and so is their running game, which is very, very important if you want to beat the Bills. Keep Josh Allen off the field, even though their defense is great. The Dolphins are riding high off their comeback win against the Ravens. And yes, the Bills are the best team, but they're also not going undefeated. I'm going to grab the points with Miami. I agree with you. I also would not be surprised if the Dolphins pull this one out. But I will grab the points at the bare minimum and take the Dolphins +5 in this one, and what should really be a shootout if you think about it. But you and I are both in agreement. We're both taking the Dolphins plus the points. I would even go bolder if I really wanted to and say the Dolphins would win this game. I'm not ready to go there just yet because the Bills are that good, but I think they could definitely give them a run here. So give me the Dolphins +5 in Miami in what should be a thrilling game. Another thrilling game, another divisional battle is up in Minnesota. It's the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. And Brandon Gaudin, Brady Quinn, Megan O'Leary have the call on the NFL on Fox. The Vikings are 6-point favorites at home in this one.
That is a way too high spread. I am taking the Lions. Again, I'm not so sure that they're going to win. I think the Vikings very well will probably pull this one out. In fact, I think the Vikings have the overall better roster, but I've been pretty impressed so far with what I've seen by the Detroit Lions in terms of heart. What's his name? Amon-Ra St. Brown. That guy is probably becoming a big X factor. And look, while I'm still not very high on Jared Goff, he's so far gotten off to a really good start. Give me Detroit. And Johnny, when are we going to have a disagreement pick so far this week?
Hank, it's not going to be here because you and I are saying the exact same thing once again. It's another team on a short week. The Vikings, bad game against the Eagles. I think that was kind of maybe more of the prime time situation with Minnesota. I also love the Eagles. I think they're going to do great, but this is another matchup for the Vikings against a team with another strong physical offensive line. The Lions play shootouts. Their offense plays consistent. You mentioned Ahmad St. Brown. I like DeAndre Swift. They're both making the jump, in my opinion, from good to special. And the Lions' rushing attack, it's been great. They're averaging an NFL high 7.2 yards per carry. I think this is going to be a major test for the Vikings, giving up over 5 yards per carry. It's the 5th highest in the NFL. And if the Lions' defense can force a turnover, Hank, I believe they have a good shot to even win this game outright. But I'll grab the 6 with Detroit as well in this one. So we are both going to take the Lions plus 6 against the Vikings. NFL and Fox has a rare AFC battle here. It's the Baltimore Ravens laying 3 in New England against the New England Patriots. Joe Davis, Daryl Moose Johnson, Pam Oliver special here on the NFL and Fox.
Again, this isn't a very difficult decision for me. The Patriots, I don't know how they were able to beat the Steelers in Heinz Field. I think that might have had a lot more to do with the Steelers' offense and how inept it is, and maybe the quarterback a little bit may have had something to do with it. I really think they're a better team with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback, but again, that's neither here nor there. Now going up against a Ravens team with Lamar Jackson, and look, I'm not very high on the Lamar train. That much but anyone with football knowledge knows the Patriots, they do not have the defensive personnel that can really stop Lamar Jackson or really keep up with him. I think the Ravens win this one easily.
Patriots are 17-3 in home opener since 2002. You want to look at that as maybe a thing? I'm not going to. Baltimore, simply put, Baltimore's better on all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. Hank, Ravens win and cover. I'm not high on the Patriots. I think part of how they won last week was the T.J. Watt injury was a big deal, and Mitchell Trubisky made a bad play, and you got to be nearly perfect with your Trubisky in order to win. But not here. Ravens bounce back. Give me the Ravens -3 to win and cover up there in Foxborough. It's an Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn special in the NFL on CBS. The Cincinnati Bengals, desperate for their first win of the year, traveled to MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Jets after their unbelievable, miraculous comeback win. But Vegas still likes the Bengals here, Hank. They're 6-point favorites on the road against Gangrene.
This might feel risky when considering what the Bengals' status is, but I'm sorry, I can't see them going 0-3, especially against the New York Jetropolitans. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the wrong nickname for a wrong sport, but you get what I mean. Yeah, I am definitely going to take that spread, even though that might be risky and that might be very high, because, look, if we look past the Jets' crazy comeback, they were absolutely garbage for the first 50 plus minutes of that game. I'm sorry, nothing about that comeback is, besides what happened at the end, really tells me that the Jets are a team that can really keep the Bengals losing streak up. So give me Cincinnati.
I want to take the Jets so bad, but it boils down to this, really. We know about the Bengals' offensive line problems, the fact that Burrow has been sacked 13 times in 2 games. But what's been a problem that the Jets have had here under Rex Ryan, under Adam Gase, under Rob Saleh, under whoever? No pass rush. And it's not as good it's not as dangerous as the Steelers or the Cowboys. That's what you need. If you had somewhat of a pass rush here and you can get to Burrow, the offensive line problems that they've had, I could see the Jets making this interesting. They don't have it. It's not a favorable matchup. Now, could the Jets get a backdoor cover in this situation? Sure, they could. Are they? No. Give me the Bengals -6 as well. So you and I sharing a brain in that one too. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see an upset, and it would be crazy to see the Bengals go 0-3. It's not a favorable matchup for the Jets here. That's the problem. But yeah, so give me the Bengals -6 over there at MetLife Stadium. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, Shannon Spake special on the NFL on Fox. Two teams also in desperate need of a win. It's the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans. Raiders 2-point favorites on the road. And I'll take this one here first just to be a little bit different, Hank. We always talk about the notion of a West Coast team coming to the East Coast playing an early game. They say that West Coast teams always at a disadvantage. I think that's absolute nonsense. We've seen that over the last couple of years, whether it was the COVID year or even in the last couple. I mean, here's what it comes down to for me. Who's the better 0-2 team? That's the Raiders. Who needs this win more? That's the Raiders. And it's even more favorable to me when they have a favorable line here. They're only laying 2 in this situation. I think they're going to be able to move the ball through the air much more so than the Titans with this so-so pass defense of the Titans. I think they're going to be able to pull this one out. Again, the Titans just don't score. And that's part of the problem too. They only scored 20 against the Giants, which a lot of that was in the first half. They only put up 7 against the Ravens. The offense, against the Bills, they don't have enough on offense, I think, to compete with the Raiders. I'm going to take Vegas to win and cover here in this one.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd have a disagreement by now, but that's just not the case because I think the Titans absolutely stink. And as far as the Raiders go, yeah, normally I'm not really inclined to take them based on their time zone. In fact, you can look at their track record on the Eastern time zone. It's actually pretty bad. But yeah, I'm with you. They're too talented. I don't think even Josh McDaniels can screw this one up for Las Vegas. So maybe this week, the safest bet is Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing you want to give the Titans an advantage of is maybe the head coach, because I still think Mike Vrabel's a very good head coach. I just don't think he's got a great team. That's I think part of the problem. Raiders to me are the better talented team. I know there was an epic loss they had last week, but I think this is the perfect spot for them to bounce back. So both of us are going to take the Raiders -2. And then finally, to close out the early window on Sunday, NFC East battle, the Philadelphia Eagles going to Washington on a short week to take on the Washington Commanders. It is also a Carson Wentz revenge game in this one. First time that Wentz will face the Eagles since the trade. Adam Adman, Mark Schlereth, Christina Pink special on the NFL on Fox. 6.5 points is what the Eagles are laying, Hank.
You know what? This might be the first one we disagree on. I am going to take the Washington Commanders for my upset special. Why? Well, for 2 reasons. One, I think their defense is definitely capable of playing well against Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2, it's a home game, and those division rivalry games can go either way for the most part. And number 3, the Carson Wentz revenge arc.
Yep. Hank, guess what?
What?
We don't disagree.
What?
Now, we disagree in the fact that I don't think the Commanders are going to win this game, but
okay.
I think you look for a sneaky Commanders cover in this spot. Again, Eagles a short week against a divisional opponent, one that hasn't looked good in moments, but they keep games close. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I think the Jaguars were even better than the Commanders opening week, but Washington rallied late to win that one, and the Lions jumped out to a 22-0 lead last week against them, and it ended up being a 9-point game. So I could see this being kind of a backdoor situation. The teams of Eagles and the Commanders, they split the last 4 at Washington. All 4 games decided by 10 points or less. I think you look for a sneaky cover here. Philly wins, but give me the Commanders with the points to at least cover and keep this game interesting. So we're in somewhat of an agreement here. You think the Commanders are going to win outright. I'm going to take the Eagles to win, but the Commanders to at least cover. So in the early window, Hank and I agree on every game, pretty much. But that is how it works. We'll see what happens.
Maybe great minds think alike.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're either going to rise together or we're going to fall together. But let's see what we do here in this late window. And this is a game that is all of a sudden become very, very interesting. And especially when you look at the lines here, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who you can make the argument are the best team in the AFC South through 2 weeks, are traveling to SoFi Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, the question is going to be, who's it going to be under center? Is it going to be Justin Herbert coming off his rib injury in week 2 to the Chiefs, or are you going to see Chase Daniel? As of now, Justin Herbert is questionable to play on Sunday, and that is why this line, which opened up at 7, is all of a sudden down to 3. It has dropped dramatically here on Friday, but as of right now, Chargers are 3-point favorites, and it's a Greg Gumbel, Adam Archuleta, AJ Ross special here on the NFL on CBS. Hank, even not knowing the status of Herbert, and now we know that he's questionable, the Jags historically have never done well in West Coast games, and even if Chase Daniel's under center, and we'll see what actually happens on Sunday, the Chargers are so loaded that their defense can get this done. As I said, I think this is kind of like an all-star team that they have on either side of the ball. And the fact that this line has now gone down to 3 almost makes me even more comfortable to say this. It takes spectacular playmaking to beat the Chargers defense. I know that the Jaguars played exceptionally well last week, and they played pretty well in their first game too, but this is, I think, a different animal against this style of defense. I'm still going to take the Chargers, even with Chase Daniel, to win and cover, especially if they're only laying 3 in this one.
I can already hear Nick's alarm sounding right now. Are you ready?
Yep.
I'm taking the Jaguars.
Hey, it's not crazy. I mean,
I
especially
am
Chase
taking
Daniels
the
going to be
Jaguars.
there.
I'm taking the Jaguars to upset, and the reason being, and it's not so much because of the fact that Chase Daniel is going to be starting this game. I think part of the reason I'm doing this is because I am very high on Trevor Lawrence. I think this is going to be the year where you see the superstar potential in him. And in fact, I'm going to be even as bold as to say I think at this point they might win that division.
Yeah, 7 wins could get it done. You look at that. You look at the South. I mean, look at the games this week. That's not far fetched. But as of now, as of Friday afternoon, as we do this, the status of Justin Herbert is questionable. But Chase Daniel did take a lot of the first team snaps on Friday, and that is why this line, which opened up at 7, has now all of a sudden gone down to 3. But even still, I think that defense is still going to be good enough to get it done. So Hank and I, with our first disagreement, I'm going to take the Chargers to win and cover. Hank's going to take Jacksonville plus 3 to start the late window. It's a Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, Laura Oakman special here on the NFL on Fox, Hank. It's the Los Angeles Rams, 3.5-point favorites as they travel to Arizona to take on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
Give me the Rams in this one. And why do I say that? I mean, look, yeah, they may have nearly faltered against the Atlanta Falcons, but I think that had more to do with them being complacent against a team that's probably going to be the number one pick in next year's NFL draft. And the Rams, I just think, are very loaded. I think they will have a good one this week. And look, as far as the Cardinals go, I mean, Kyler Murray can only carry them so much. I'm not drinking the Kyler Aid this week. Give me LA.
He's going to have to do it all like he did last week. You know, you saw how much he was running around, especially on that 2-point conversion to make it interesting there against the Raiders. And then obviously it was that fumble recovery in overtime that ultimately did in Vegas. But yeah, just a couple of things with this. Really, there's really not much for me to break down with this. The Rams are 10-1 against the Cardinals under Sean McVay. As I said, I think Kyler Murray's going to have to do it all, and I just don't know if he can do this, especially against a team that can't get a pass rush going in the Cardinals. I think that's great for Matthew Stafford. I think it's just the kind of game that he needs to bounce back. I know they jumped out to a big lead and they struggled down the stretch against the Falcons last week, but I think this is a spot where they win and cover. So give me the Rams laying 3.5 on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Chris Myers, Robert Smith, Jen Hale special on the NFL on Fox. The Atlanta Falcons stay on the West Coast, and they travel up to Seattle against the 12th man and the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks 1-point favorites at home.
The This one, I'm just going to do a coin flip here. You ready?
Oh, he's going to do it in real time. You didn't
Wait,
set any
sorry,
rules, though,
let
on
me
it.
try that again. Okay, it's heads. I'm going with Seahawks.
All right, yeah. Well, Geno Smith versus Marcus Mariota. Geez, what are we looking at? 10-9 possibly in this one. Falcons have 2 losses by a combined total of 5 points. They have 5 turnovers. Tough road to carry, but Seattle's got turnover issues of their own. I think the Falcons have actually played better than expected, though, in 2 weeks. They've covered both times, but this to me is one of the games that I feel like the home field advantage is going to help the Seahawks. I think it did that in their opening game against the Broncos, and I hesitate to say this, but I think it does it again here. I'm going to take the Seahawks in what probably will be a low-scoring game, but give me Seattle -1 in what should be a very interesting game up there in Seattle. But the game of the late window, Hank, down in Tampa, it's the Green Bay Packers traveling to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. It's Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi on the call in the NFL on Fox. Buccaneers down to a 1-point favorite.
Okay, let me do that. No, I'm kidding. I actually am not doing a coin flip this time. I have the Buccaneers winning this game. Simply put, I generally do not bet against Tom Brady. There, I said it. And not to mention, his wide receiving core improved with the acquisition of Cole Beasley, which I thought was a solid under the radar signing. So give me the Bucs.
A lot of people are talking about the Bucs injuries, and that's very fair because I said that last week when we did these picks. I think all the injuries that they had 5 receivers on the injury report at one time. Most of them did not play, and obviously we know about now the suspension to Mike Evans. We know the injuries to Chris Godwin, and so we have injuries. But also look at the Packers side. They're also dealing with injuries too. Alan Lazard's been in and out. The Packers ruled out Sammy Watkins on Friday, and I tell you one aspect that I would look at is the defense for the Bucs. They have been lightning sharp here through these first 2 games, and I could see this almost being very similar to what the Packers had to go to up in Minnesota to start the year. And I love the Bucs defense more than Green Bay, especially when the Packers are playing away from Lambeau. The key for Green Bay really is the offensive line protection has to be there for Aaron Rodgers. He's been sacked 7 times in 2 games. I think he's going to have struggles too. I actually, it's crazy to say this, I love the Bucs in this one. Give me Tampa Bay -1. It could be a very, very close one. Could be a very, very low scoring one. But I think there's more on Tampa's side here than there is on Green Bay. And I think they're going to get it done. And even with a depleted core, I think the Bucs are going to be 3-0. Sunday Night Football on NBC. It's a Tarico Collinsworth Stark special here as the San Francisco 49ers go to Mile High against the Denver Broncos. 49ers now with Jimmy Garoppolo under center are a 1.5-point favorite in this one.
This is going to seem like an interesting pick, but I'm going to go with the 49ers here because I think the Niners are a talented team, and I think Jimmy G is going to go out with an extra set of motivation now that he is pretty much back as the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't care that this game is in Mile High Denver. I don't care that the Broncos have Russell Wilson. I think the other thing going against the Broncos is the fact that there is emphasis on the first 4 letters of their head coach's last name. Give me the 49ers.
Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, energizes the 49ers offense. We saw that on Sunday. Of course, you hate to see what happened with Trey Lance, but he energizes the 49ers offense and the passing attack. And also remember, too, here's an interesting nugget. So, to me, the 49ers, we know they're more familiar than Wilson than Nathaniel Hackett is with the 49ers. And I know that Nathaniel Hackett was with Green Bay as a coordinator before, but NFC West showdowns in the past between the 49ers and Russell Wilson when he was with Seattle. We all know Hackett's still working out the kinks. I also like the 49ers defense. It is nasty. I think they get it done. Give me the Niners to win and cover, and it's going to be very, very desperate. It'll be a 1-2 spot for the Denver Broncos. And then, Hank, it's our game on Monday Night Football on ESPN. It's a Buck Aikman Salter special here as the Dallas Cowboys and New York Giants rock out the white at MetLife Stadium. The Giants are 1-point favorites at home to close out the week.
This is another really tough game for me to decide because, even though on the surface you would think I would have an easy time picking the Giants, not so much because Cooper Rush definitely still can beat the Giants. And let's not forget, the Cowboys have a strong defense led by Mr. Micah Parsons. So I think that will be a tough one. And by the way, Johnny, I want to ask you a question that Brian Attard asked me last night on Big Blue Avenue.
Sure.
If I could, to quote Cher, if you could turn back time to the 2021 draft, would you have taken Micah Parsons, knowing what you know about him now, instead of trading down for what they ended up getting?
In hindsight's 2020 here. I think when you look at what the Giants really wanted in that draft, I know what I really wanted. I still would have done what they did, what the Giants did. And of course, obviously, it hasn't really worked out. But yeah, I mean, Micah Parsons is turning out to be arguably the best defensive player in the league this year. But on that notion, Hank, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask you out of curiosity. This was a
Yeah,
question.
I mean, I
got to give Brian Attard full credit for that. Just
yes,
again,
absolutely.
I am going to go with the Giants because I think they're going to be riding the adrenaline of the home crowd in one of the first primetime games, their first primetime game this year. And also, it's been a long time since the Giants have even won a Monday Night Football game. I think the law of averages would dictate that the Giants win this game, but I'm not saying that with 100% confidence because of the flaws that I saw the last 2 weeks. But still, let's go Big Blue.
Yeah, so the defense obviously scares me a bit, but let's also remember, too, on the Giants side, it looks like Kayvon Thibodeau and I need help with the pronunciation, Al-Jazari.
Azeez Ojulari.
Azeez Ojulari. I think I combined his first and last name there. It looks like they're trending towards playing on Monday night, which would be a great boost. So the defense scares me, but Hank, let's be honest here, and I'm going to give some bold takes on this one. I'm going to take the team with the better coach and the better quarterback in this game. That's the Giants. And yeah, the defense does scare me, but I also don't think you can put it past how much of a factor the home crowd's going to be in this game. Now, it could be ugly, low scoring. I think we actually are trending toward like a very similar 19-16 game, like week 2, or possibly 23-20 like in week 1, because I think those are the kind of games the Giants are going to be playing right now, because their offense still needs to be worked on a bit. But at the same time, Daniel Jones, when has made the key plays when he's needed to, and I think he can do that too. Cooper Rush is a wild card to me in this spot. I don't really know. And also, I think that Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a big game. That's going to be key. But the Giants have been able to, for the most part, do well and contain Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. So I trust the Giants coaching staff to continue that trend. I think we're going to be sweating it out a lot. But in the end of the day, I'm going to trust Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley more than I'm going to trust Cooper Rush and Ezekiel Elliott. And let's also remember one thing, too. The Cowboys last week, I mean, they did win that game, but they blew a 17-3 lead in the second half, and it took a long field goal for them to win that game against the Bengals. And they played against a Bengals team that was very, their offensive line was a mess. I think this Giants team is favored better. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys do win it. I'd be surprised if it was a blowout on either side, because I think it's going to be that close. But yeah, I'm taking the team with the better coach and the better coaching system and the better quarterback in this spot. And that's the New York Football Giants. And that's not just my fandom saying that. That's just what I look at when I look at these two teams. So give me the Giants in like a 19-16 battle. And I think when we talk on episode 27 of Game On Tuesday, we're going to be talking about a 3-0 football team. And if that's the case, 3-0 is going to be 3-0. So We'll hope so, but we
A
did make
win's a
some
win's a win.
absolutely. And you know what? Give me 10 of those. Like I said last episode, give me 10 of those wins to get into the playoffs. Now, again, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I'm just saying, 10 wins. It's not like college football where those wins, the way you get those wins are important. In the NFL,
And you know what Mike Tomlin says, there are no style points in the NFL.
No, there's not. But I think the Giants find a way to get this done. But I think we're going to be sweating a lot throughout this game. But that's Giants football. It's never supposed to be easy. But yes, so give me the Giants to win and cover. And so I have some bold. Hank and I both have some bold picks this week. It's that kind of week. But for the most part, we're in agreement on every single game but one. But also you can say the first game we did differ on as well because I took the Browns to win outright. Hank took the Steelers to cover. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It should be a fascinating week with some very interesting matchups. Obviously, I think the big game early on is the AFC East showdown between the Bills and Dolphins down there in Miami. And, late one, I'm looking at Green Bay and Tampa. And then the Monday night game is going to be very, very fascinating between the Cowboys and Giants. But it should be a great Sunday and Monday of NFL football. Of course, we'll come back on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for episode 27 of Game On to discuss it all, including all the latest sports news. And boy, there's a lot to discuss there as well. And then I'll see you back here next Thursday for another Monty moment on college football. And Hank and I will be back here next Friday for week 4 of the NFL season to do it all over again. And that just goes to show you how fast this league goes by. So Hank, enjoy the football. Everybody enjoy the football. And Hank and I will talk to you again next week.